right, good morning, everyone. ZASLOW Show 2.0 here. It is a Monday morning, the 7th morning of November. Good to have you aboard as we got a big-time Miami sports weekend to wrap up here. Glad to have you with us. Week number 2, ZASLOW Show 2.0. Super appreciative of everyone who helped us get through the first week. I think it went pretty smooth. You know, a week ago today, doing the first show for ZASLOW Show 2.0, you're getting the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, Google, wherever you get your podcasts, you're going to find your boy, okay? Make sure you check out the YouTube channel as well, youtube.com/@ZASLOW Show. I'm uploading some stuff there. We did some fun things last week. We did a little big game, not a big game with fake ZASLOW. We had the debut of my wrestling-specific show. It's Still Real to Me every Saturday. If you haven't checked that out, go check that out. It's me and my pal Joey Levine. He is my co-host for Saturdays. WWE Crown Jewel, we reviewed the entire show, so you can go and watch that on the YouTube channel. But of course, also here on Saturdays, it's uploaded right there on the ZASLOW Show 2.0 podcast feed, wherever you're getting the show, whichever podcast platform you're using there. So go check that out. We're still going to mix in pro wrestling stuff Monday through Friday, but that show on Saturdays is specific to pro wrestling. But today, a Monday, with a lot happening over the weekend. We had a sports equinox on Saturday. Sports equinox, everybody knows what sports equinox is. That means on the same day, you got football, you got basketball, you got baseball, you got hockey. Everybody knows what a sports equinox is. Now, the sports equinox on Saturday, it was college football. Does that technically make it a sports equinox? I feel like it's supposed to be pro football. It's supposed to be all 4 of the major North American pro sports. So is that still a sports equinox? I don't know. But the point is, we got a lot of action from over the weekend. So really glad to have you here. And of course, this being the start of week number 2, ZASLOW Show 2.0. ZASLOW Show 2.0 from day one. You already know. Brought to us, presented by Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys, 800-747-FREE. That's 800-747-3733. Mark Anidjar, Glenn Levine, Ellie Anidjar. If I got any kind of issue, if I'm dealing with an injury, anyone I know gets into an accident, I'm sending them to Anidjar and Levine because I trust them. I know the families. And if you're listening to my show right now, I consider you my friend, and I'm only going to send you to the best to make sure that you get taken care of. So love those guys. Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys, 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. All right, I had a lot personally that went on this week. I did a lot of stuff. I was very busy this weekend. A lot going on. We'll get to that. That's not the most important thing. You're not tuning into ZASLOW Show 2.0 today on a Monday morning looking to hear about my weekend first and foremost. No, we'll get to that. You want to hear? I know you want to hear about it. We'll get to it, all right? But first, do we start out with the good or do we start out with the bad? We start out with the good, all right? So we start out with the Dolphins. The Dolphins 35-32 yesterday, improved to 6-3, and you know, essentially they're doing it, all right? You knew that they had the very tough stretch, first 4 games. You would have been like, holy shit, if they can get out of those first 4 games 2-2, well, I mean, they were 3-1. They were 3-0, and then they were 3-1. Now, you gave one of those games back. The one, you hope that this game doesn't haunt you, although the loss isn't looking as bad now, but you hope that this game doesn't haunt you. 40-17 the Jets. That's the one that you look back at. You don't look back at the Bengals game, Thursday Night Football, short week, on the road. Tua got hurt at the very beginning. You're not looking back necessarily the Vikings game either. You had Jacoby Brissett. That was last year and this weekend. It may as well have been Jacoby Brissett. You got Teddy Bridgewater out there. And Minnesota, we know, is a good team. They're now 7-1 after winning against Washington. They're called the Commanders this season. And the one that you're looking at right now, the one game that I think you really wish you had back was 40-17, the Jets. Now, at the time, we didn't know the Jets were any good. The Jets are looking pretty good now. The Jets, 6-3, right there, AFC East, best division in football. How about that? We would have thought AFC West, best division in football. We know the Chiefs are awesome. The Chargers, I know the Chargers are 5-3, but I don't know. I don't feel like the Chargers are very good. The Raiders stink. I mean, can McDaniels be one and done? And then the Broncos. Broncos are not good either. That AFC West stinks. AFC East and NFC East. Best divisions in football. AFC East, you got 3 6-win teams and another team that's over 500. It's the only division in football that all 4 teams are over 500. And then you look at the NFC West, obviously undefeated Eagles, Giants with the great record, 6 wins, Cowboys with the great record, 6 wins, and then you got the Commanders, what are they, 4-5 now, I think. So AFC East, best division in football. NFC East, pretty damn good also. The one game that you wish you had back, if you're the Dolphins, Dolphin fan wishes he had that Jets game back. But you look back at it now, it's like, all right, the Jets might be kind of good. I mean, I don't trust their offense whatsoever, but the Jets' defense is clearly the real deal. You got to be fair. Yeah, I know I got some Jets fans, my boy Pino, all right? I got Jets fans that listen to this show. You're holding the receipts. I get it. I can't wait for that next matchup, the game that's going to be here, which, by the way, those final games of the season at Buffalo, home against the New York Jets, whoo, boy. Those are some major stakes, those 2 games. Major stakes. So that's kind of the whole point, I think, right? So the Dolphins are doing it. They got through that early part of the stretch of the season unscathed. They were 3-1. You gave one of those games back because we knew that, 7 of the next 8 games, and we're still in the middle of it. We still got a couple more of those games. We knew that 7 of the next 8 games during that stretch was going to be, hey, you got to win pretty much all these games. You knew you were going to, Vikings was a tough game, and then you figure you're going to slip up somewhere else, which they have already. So that was the Jets. So the final 2 games of this stretch here, Browns this weekend, and then you follow it with the Texans. The Dolphins should be coming out of this stretch 8-3. That's big time. And they're doing it. They're there. 6-3 and 6-0 this year when Tua finishes a game. The Dolphins have won 13 of their last 14 when Tua finishes the game. Wow. You know I'm so happy about that. I mean, Tua, I love being right. That's number 1. And I've been on Tua's tip since day number 1. Love being right. But you know I'm excited about that. Tua, that's my dog. He was on fire yesterday. The Dolphins' offense is fun as hell. Look, there are definitely things that you can be down about. There are definitely things that need to be better, big picture-wise. But overall, the only thing that matters is this Dolphin team is in the AFC East race. They are in the thick of it. They are clearly up, and this stuff matters for the Dolphin fan who, look, if you're a Dolphin fan who's 25 or under, you've never had a season like this. Now, I'm not saying that you've never seen them at 6-3, but you've never had a season like this where they're 6-3 and they're exciting and they're fun. They got a great quarterback. They got great wide receivers. Yo, Jeff Wilson, shout out to you, fitting right in week number 1. Nice little change of pace between Mostert and Wilson. You got a running game here. Dolphin fan who's 25 or under, you've never had a season like this. I feel really good for you. I do. They are clearly a playoff-worthy team, and they have a franchise quarterback. That's the only thing that matters. Like I said, overall, are there things that need to be a lot better? Yeah, defense, I'm looking right at you. Right? I'm looking right at you. There are things that need to be better. But there are too many things that you're experiencing right now as a Dolphin fan that are making you feel good and making you feel all kinds of ways that maybe you've never felt. Especially if you're a certain age, especially if you're under 25 years old. The only thing that matters, this team is in the thick of the AFC East race, which, by the way, if you're in the thick of the AFC East race, that also kind of means you're in the thick of being the number 1 overall team in the AFC. Because right now, the number 1 overall team in the AFC is only a half game ahead of you, and that's the Buffalo Bills, and you already beat them once. You're in the thick of the race in the entire AFC, essentially. They are clearly a playoff-worthy team. That doesn't mean they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, obviously, it'd be a massive disappointment if they didn't. But they are absolutely a playoff-worthy team. and you have a franchise quarterback. You know that. Like, that conversation, does Tua have his shortcomings? Look, Tua would have gotten his fair share of blame yesterday if they lost. Let's be honest. Tua would have absolutely gotten his fair share of the blame. You could say to yourself, hey, defense sucks. That's why we lost the game. Well, as poor as the Dolphins defense was, they came up with stops in the fourth quarter. Well, yeah, like late third quarter on. They came up with stops on 3 of the last 4 possessions. 2 punts, turnover on downs at the end of the game. And we saw that the game against Baltimore too, right? Game against Ravens are up, whatever the score was at the time. Ravens are up big. Dolphins defense didn't let him do anything in the fourth quarter, shut him down, gave the offense a chance to come back. You saw it the Detroit game as well. I mean, Detroit's kicking our ass. The Dolphins shut them down, defense shut them down in the second half. And yesterday, I mean, Justin Fields ran for a quarterback rushing record of 850 yards. Defense is poor, that's for sure. But when it really mattered, when you really needed the defense to come up with some stops, they stopped Chicago 3 of the last 4 possessions. All right? 2 punts, 1 turnover on downs. You got to point that out. Tua would have gotten his fair share of blame if the Dolphins don't win that game yesterday. Like, let's say Chicago comes up with the game-winning drive. Maybe they kick a field goal and you win in overtime. Like, the defense gave it up. You're going to easily and very rightfully so point out 2 specific plays from Tua, which would have put the game away. Number 1, you had the 4th down play. He misses Smythe. Dolphins go for 4th and 2, which totally good with the Dolphins going for it there. It's 35-32. What are we, like midway through the fourth quarter? 35-32. The defense still at this point, you don't trust. And you figure, hey, we kick a field goal here, a touchdown, we're going to lose. Let's go for it here. Our offense is awesome. Let's go for it here. Let's just put the game away. Worst case scenario, we give Chicago the ball all the way back here inside their own, what was the 10-yard line, 15, inside their own 10-yard line. They got to get a touchdown to beat you. Just like before, if you kick the field goal there, it's a touchdown to beat you also. So no problem. It's not like the Pittsburgh game, and even though that was not like fourth quarter, it's not like the Pittsburgh game where you go for a field goal that you go up 2 scores. You weren't going up 2 scores here. You weren't even going up by a touchdown. No, McDaniel, it was an aggressive call. But I don't even know if that was that aggressive. It wasn't even that aggressive. It was the right call. You go for it there. They don't pick it up, specifically because Tua doesn't make the throw. There's some miscommunication between him and Smythe. Smythe looked away. Whatever. It doesn't matter what happened there. It was a poor throw from Tua. You got to make that throw. That's play number 1. And, of course, play number 2, before the Dolphins got their final stop, Tua looking deep for Waddle. Ball was knocked away. But I think it was Waddle, but he was open, and if Tua leads him just a little bit, not only is it a completion, run out the clock, game over, it's a touchdown, game over. Those 2 plays, the Dolphins iced the game, and Tua did not make good throws. I love Tua, that's my dog, but fair's fair. You got to point it out. And I know that, there's talk, Tua can't throw the deep ball, Tua's got a noodle arm. I hate that talk. I don't like that shit. But those 2 plays there, you have to point out. So Tua, as great as he was yesterday, he would have gotten his fair share of blame if the Dolphins don't ice that game yesterday, and it would have been deserved. So as poor as the Dolphins defense played yesterday, they did come up big in the fourth quarter. They came up with stops. And I know the Bears fan screaming about the PI. I haven't read a ton of reaction, but am I the only one that thought Crossan had good coverage there? You had the incompletion on 4th down right after that, which probably should have been a catch. The player should have caught it. But 3rd down right before that with Claypool, yes, there was some contact there. But, there's contact almost every play like that. I thought Crossan had good coverage. I did not think it was pass interference. I was a little bit surprised the official didn't call it. You figured they would, a little hometown cooking. I thought the official made the right no call. And when you go and look at the replay, Claypool kind of bails on the play. Like, he backpedals into crossing. He's falling down as he's trying to catch it. Instead of kind of establishing your position and jumping up with two hands to catch the ball. If he does that, A, he probably catches the ball, number one. And B, then if he's held down, that's an easy call for the official to make. But instead, Claypool, he kind of played that ball like a sissy, all right? He's still backpedaling as the ball is coming. Instead of jumping straight up, he's falling into crossing. I thought it was a good no call. I don't know. Hit me up at ZASLOW Show on Twitter, ZASLOWJ on Instagram. Am I like the only one who thought that was a good no call, that Crossen made a good play there? I did not think it was pass interference. So, I mean, wham, Bears fan. You can cry about it all you want. I thought that was a good defensive play there. So, Tua was great. Hill, Waddle, I mean, they're unstoppable. The Dolphins' running game, Jeff Wilson seems like a nice addition, obviously. And only one other thing that I could point. Like I said, I'm not gonna harp on things that we could be down about. Dolphin fans should be just super pumped, super excited. You got the Browns this weekend. Browns, I hate them. And then you got the Texans, like, let's go. All right. And also, by the way, good teams beat teams they're supposed to beat. You know, they barely got past Pittsburgh. You needed a game-saving play from Igbenogany there. Shout out. It was Tua's first game back. You could understand maybe some trepidation there. Just win the game. Just survive. The next game, Detroit. I mean, hey, look. Detroit sucks. We know that. Aaron Rodgers just scored 9 points. So it's not like everyone is scoring 100 points on the Lions. But the Dolphins on the road. It's a road game. Road game that you trailed by 2 touchdowns. They win that game. And yesterday, you get behind early. Not big, but you get behind early against Chicago. You're on the road as well. You win that game. The good teams win the games they're supposed to. And the Dolphins went on the road the last 2 weeks, and they're winning games they're supposed to. Now, only one other thing that I got to point out, which, you know, the defense, look, Bradley Chubb did nothing yesterday, but you got to, give him a little bit of time, all right? He's going to help. And maybe one day Byron Jones appears out of nowhere, out of thin air. Maybe one day Byron Jones decides to play football. I don't know. Very difficult to tell. Maybe the defense will wind up improving. But one thing that I'm very concerned about with this Dolphin team movement, you know it. You know what I'm going to say. Dolphins kicking situation. Jason Sanders. Brutal. I can't believe it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I can't believe it was only a couple years ago. Jason Sanders, he was automatic. Every time he's out there, you know he's going to make the kick. I can't believe this is the same guy. He's making every kick just a couple years ago. And now, you're with me here. When he runs out on the field, you have no confidence he's going to make the kick. Doesn't matter the distance. He doesn't make over 50 yards. He's 0 for 3. He does not make over 50 yards. Every NFL kicker now makes 50-yard field goals. 50-yard kicks are nothing these days. Jason Sanders can't make one. And even when he comes out under 50 yards, doesn't matter what the distance is, you have no faith that Jason Sanders is making that kick. Sanders had a chance to put the Dolphins up by 7 at the break yesterday. 29-yard field goal chip shot. I don't care if it's a freaking blizzard, all right? 29-yard field goal. It wasn't even close. Totally hooked it. Sanders had a chance to put the Dolphins up by 7, which was so huge because then they also get the ball, which they then scored on too. So you would have been up 2 touchdowns early in the third quarter. Instead, you were up by 11 early in the third quarter. Chicago got within 3, back and forth. You know what happened there. Touchdown, game over, Dolphins win. Jason, that was a major sequence in the game, keeping the door open there for the Bears. Jason Sanders could be a problem for this team. Late in the season, you got that huge game against Buffalo I'm talking about, the huge game against the Jets. These are going to be close games. Jason Sanders gets out there late in the fourth quarter. Dolphins are lined up for a 48-yard field goal to win the game against their division rival. You feel like he's making that kick? What? He hasn't made a single kick over 50 yards yet this year. Dolphins are kicking a 53-yarder to win the game against the Bills. Or win the game at home against the Jets. Whatever. Last game of the season. Clinch a playoff spot. You're at home against the Jets. 53-yard field goal, Jason Sanders line up. You feel like he's making that kick? I think the Dolphins got a problem with kicker. And it's not like, hey, cut him, bring someone off the street. I don't want to bring someone off the street. But Jason Sanders, I think is a problem. I think he's a problem late in the season, in a big spot. And I think he's a problem in the playoffs. I hope that we don't get to a place later in the season where we're going to remember this show. Where we're going to remember me saying that Jason Sanders could be a problem. I hope we don't have to look back at this show. But 6-3, man. And as exciting as they've been in a quarter century. So you're not going to get me to complain too much right now. Those are things that needed to be pointed out. But overall, and especially considering where the Dolphin fan has come from, what you're experiencing right now, okay, the defense isn't very good. So let's outscore our problems. And that's what they've been doing. They've been outscoring their problems. They outscored their problems this week. They outscored their problems last week. So you got to be, I'm so pumped about this. I'm really pumped about the Dolphins. I'm super excited about it. Really good stuff. You're going to have a great crowd this weekend against Cleveland. I mean, F the Browns. Let's go out there and stomp this team. Now, you're a little bit worried about Bradley Chubb, of course, this Dolphin run defense. You're a little bit worried about Chubb. All right. I'm talking about you're worried. Nick Chubb, Bradley Chubb. That's going to be a little bit confusing. You feel like Cephalo is going to be able to master that this weekend between Nick Chubb and Bradley Chubb? My God. By the way, I listened to a lot of the Dolphin game in the car. Yes. Well, I listened to a bit of it in the car. And then my son had soccer yesterday. Shout out Weston Select, U14 boys. Another dub. Great weekend for my son's soccer team. We had to travel to Naples this weekend. This Saturday morning, we had a game in Naples. Won that game 1-0. And then yesterday, home game, won that game 3-0 against a team from Kendall. And my son's team is now 6-2-2. So, by the way, great win yesterday. Both games were tough. Great game yesterday. They won 3-0. The game was scoreless going into the final 15 minutes. Ended up winning 3-0. And shout out the goalkeeper, Corey ZASLOW, my son. Clean sheet for the last 5 matches. That's what we're talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Clean sheet for my son for the last 5 matches. Came up with 2 monster saves yesterday while the game was still scoreless. He was excellent this weekend. He's been really good. Obviously, he was out for the first month of the season. He had a hip pointer. If you guys listen to the ZASLOW show, you know that. He's back. He's essentially full strength. Just kicking ass out there. I'm so proud of the whole team, though. Great weekend for Weston Select U14 boys. So anyway, during the game yesterday, I'm listening to I got the earpiece in. I got my phone in my pocket. I'm listening to a lot of the game. What do? If you have the opportunity, like I got Sirius XM satellite, and if you have the opportunity to listen to either of the broadcasts, either the Dolphins broadcast, and you know I love Joe Rose. Joe Rose is an excellent color announcer. You know I love Joe Rose. If you got an opportunity, though, to listen to either the Dolphins radio broadcast or the other team's radio broadcast, I think it's what's his name, Jeff Joniak, who does the Bears. I think that's his name. If you got an opportunity to listen to the Dolphins radio broadcast or the other team's broadcast, you got to go to the other team. You have to. So I got Sirius XM satellite, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to listen to the Bears broadcast. I can follow along the game. I know what's going on. It's you listen to another team's broadcast, radio broadcast, and if you couldn't tell, right, it's such a disgrace. It's such a disgrace, the Dolphins broadcast. It is. It's so bad. Dolphin fans deserve so much better. So I had a clue yesterday what was going on. Otherwise, I would have no clue. But anyway, so I listened to a lot of the game yesterday, but obviously I was able to see the fourth quarter. But I had a clue what was happening. All right, anyway, enough of that. So Dolphins next up, you got Cleveland, but a real feel-good weekend for the Dolphins. And last night too, by the way, which we'll get to the Panthers, we'll do a little bit of that. But that helps make up. I mean, it doesn't totally make up for it, but at least you end the weekend on the high football note than the way that you started the weekend with the massive embarrassment of football that took place at Hard Rock Stadium on Saturday night. So we'll get to that in a second here. Let me mix it up a little bit. I'll tell you a little bit about my weekend. Let's build into a crescendo before we get to the Canes here. I mean, you got some Canes fans out there who were mad at me. I didn't devote enough time last week to the Canes FSU. They're upset that I didn't think the game had juice to it. Look at you now. 45-3. Get the hell out of here. 45-3. You're upset that I wasn't so pumped up about the game, and they go out there. Yeah, I mean, you can't be mad at me for not thinking the game was so huge. You can't be mad at me for not being so excited about Miami FSU. It's a rivalry game. Both teams come to play, recruits, blah, 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 blah. You can't be mad at me about all that I'm not super excited about Canes FSU this year. Not in general. In general, I love it. You can't be mad at me that I'm not excited this year, this past Saturday, about Canes FSU. You're mad because you're a Canes fan, and then you lose 45-3. Please. We'll get right back to that. So, I went and saw Brad Williams this weekend at the Dana Improv. If you don't know Brad, you know Brad Williams. Well, if you don't know who he is, when I tell you he's the very famous comedian who's also a little person, now you know who he is. Now you know. Like, you don't recognize the name maybe, but oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. Now you know who he is. And if I could tell you, I love seeing shows at the Improv, man. We went to Dana Improv. Shout out to Marcos and the guys there at Dana Improv who always take care of me. I love going to the Improv because, you get the big shows. Like, my wife and I are going to see Adam Sandler tomorrow night at Hard Rock Live. I love that venue. It's expensive, man. So, and Adam Sandler's my wife's favorite. He's on her list. She would leave me for him. I get it. So we're going to see Adam Sandler tomorrow night. It's going to be really great. But man, it's expensive, So I love seeing shows at the Improv. Improv's so affordable. Intimate. You're right there up close. Improv's a great time. I love going to the Improv. Anyway, so we go and see Brad Williams this weekend. And I got to tell you, it's as much fun I've ever had at a show at the Improv. He killed it. Such a fun show. Sitting there right next to Roy Bellamy, Amin El Hassan from the Levitard show. Got to see those guys and hang out a little bit after the show with them. Brad Williams just killed it. I had my wife too. I love it. See, you know how that goes, right? With me, when I take my wife to a comedy show, I gotta be so careful when I take her to a comedy show because I know a lot of these comedians. She doesn't. She had no idea who Brad Williams was, and I gotta be careful because if I take her to a comedy show or a movie for that matter, I gotta be very careful when I take my wife to a movie, but especially a comedy show. If we're at the comedy show and she's not laughing, kills it for me. I can't enjoy myself. Because if I know she's not enjoying herself, then I can't enjoy myself. If she's not finding it funny, that's all I'm thinking about the whole time. So I gotta be careful. And I knew she was gonna like Brad Williams, and holy shit, she's cackling throughout the show, which I love. That's my favorite, hearing her laugh like that. So she loved it. I loved it. He killed Brad Williams. Man, he was funny. And by the way, does such a good job disarming the entire audience with him being a little person right when he comes out on stage. Now, I wouldn't think that anyone cares or, because you're there. You bought a ticket. Now, my wife didn't know who Brad Williams was, but I would figure 99% of the audience knows he's a little person. So it's not like it should be a surprise. But he does such a good job disarming the audience and letting everybody know, yeah, we're going to talk about me being a little person, and you're going to laugh really hard, and it's great. And he does such a good job at that when he starts out because, you have the host of the show, you have the feature act right before him, and then you got the main act, which is Brad Williams. And so he comes right out on the stage, everyone's clapping, they're cheering, they're happy to see him, and he just starts right out. Hey, you got a Jewish guy, you got a funny tall black guy, and now a midget just ran out on the stage. We're gonna have fun tonight. And just uproarious laughter. Like at that point, it's like, oh, okay, all right, we're gonna have fun tonight. So he killed it. He was so good. I highly recommend going to see him. What else did I have going on this weekend? I saw Brad Williams on Friday night. Saturday night, shout out to my guy Nelio, CCW, Coastal Championship Wrestling. Bash at the Brew Saturday night, unbranded brewery. They had the Canes game on there. And the first, now I told you I debuted my wrestling show this past Saturday. It's still real to me. Go check that out. It's on the ZASLOW Show 2.0 feed. So, excuse me. Went on Saturday night. My guy Nelio, he's, I think his title officially is executive director for CCW. He's like the promoter, you know. And it's the first, he welcomed me and my buddy, we went. Unbranded brewery, by the way. Shout out to them. Great food. I had an awesome pulled pork sandwich. The food, the beers. Great van. I love finding breweries like that. It's in Hialeah. I love finding breweries like that. And it was my first ever indie wrestling show. Believe that? I'd never been to an indie wrestling show. First ever indie wrestling show. Holy crap, we had a good time. That was fun. Got to see the Vampire Warrior Gangrel in action. He did a terrific job. That was exciting for me, being a kid, a guy who grew up watching WWE. Of course, loved the Attitude Era. Gangrel, all-time great WWE star, should probably be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame one day. But first ever indie show I've ever been to. We had a great time. And so shout out to Coastal Championship Wrestling. And by the way, it was packed. And when I say packed, I mean, we're talking like several hundred people. But it was packed, man. They draw a crowd. We will go again. So shout out to those guys there, CCW, Coastal Championship Wrestling on Saturday night. Man, that was a lot of fun.